Looking for ways to use up your scrap yarn? In this easy to follow tutorial, I'll give you step-by-step instructions on just how to do that. Today we'll crochet these stunning geodes. These geodes make great gifts and are a favorite at craft fairs and markets. Hi, I'm Minnie from This and That Minis. Thanks for joining me, and let's get started. In this tutorial, we'll be making this pink geode. The materials you'll need is a 4.5 or a 5 millimeter crochet hook, a G or an H. Any scrap yarn. I am using this pink 4-ply acrylic, a light gray for the outside, and white for the trim here. Pair of scissors, a yarn needle that's small enough to fit through your pony beads, 3 stitch markers, one a different color than the other 2. And I found these clear colored pony beads from the dollar store to be perfect for making geodes. They're a bit smaller than the clear ones, and the crystals inside a geode are different sizes, so that's important. And you can find clear pony beads anywhere. I found this big packet at Hobby Lobby. For this color geode, I found this pack of black AB at Hobby Lobby as well. And it sure makes a striking geode. Get your beads ready and let's get started. To begin, we'll start with a magic circle. And place 5 single crochets in that magic circle. And 5. And close off the magic circle. And place a slip stitch at the top of that first crochet. Chain 1 and place 2 more single crochets in that same stitch. And grabbing your stitch marker that's different color than the other 2, place it in the second single crochet of those 3 stitches. Single crochet in the next stitch. And 3 single crochets in the next single crochet from the previous round. And again, place a stitch marker in the second single crochet of those 3. Single crochet in the next stitch. And 3 single crochets in the next stitch. Place your last stitch marker in that second single crochet of the group of 3. Single crochet in the next stitch. And place 3 single crochets in the beginning stitch marker.
And I'm sorry about going off camera there.
Replace your stitch marker in the second single crochet of the group of 3. Crochet over to the next stitch marker. A single crochet in each stitch from the previous round. And 3 single crochets where that stitch marker is. Replacing that stitch marker in the second single crochet of that group of 3. And single crochet in each stitch over to the next stitch marker. Three single crochets where your stitch marker is. And replace your stitch marker in that second stitch of that group of 3. Single crochet over to your beginning stitch marker. And that is our repeat. 3 single crochets where your stitch marker is, single crochet in each stitch over to the next stitch marker, 3 single crochets in that stitch, single crochet over to the next stitch marker, 3 single crochets where that is, and back up to the top, placing a single crochet in each of those stitches. Remembering to place the stitch marker in the second stitch of the group of 3. Continue this for 4 more rounds, and I'll be back in a moment. And here we are coming back up on this beginning stitch marker here. When we get to that, don't place 3 single crochets. Just keep going around, placing a single crochet in each stitch for 2 rows. Leave your stitch markers in place. 1 single crochet
in each stitch for 2 rows.
And I'll see you in a moment.
Place your last single crochet in that last stitch of the round. And another single crochet where your stitch marker is. And where are y'all watching from today? Let me know in the comments below. Now notice this line here made by the center of your 3 stitches from previous rows. That is where we'll place the 3 stitches of this row. And place 3 single crochets at the top of each of these other lines, right where your stitch marker is. Place a stitch marker in that second stitch of your 3 single crochets. I will meet back up with you at the end of the round. Place a single crochet in that last stitch. This next round is just a round of single crochets in each stitch all around.
Coming up on your stitch marker, place that last single crochet in that last stitch and a single crochet where your stitch marker is. Replace your stitch marker. You no longer need your stitch markers along the other corners. This last row is a row of singles all around. So place 1 single crochet in each stitch until we get back to the stitch marker. I will see you in a moment. And here we are at the stitch marker. That is the last row of gray. Cut your yarn, leaving about a 4 to 5 inch tail. We will do 1 row of white. Make a slip knot, placing it on your hook, pulling tight, and pulling through that loop on your hook. Pulling tight again. And I like to tie those loose ends together. And then you can see how your geode just made a natural cup here, turning it inside out to where all these loose ends will now be hid in the middle of this geode. We don't have to worry about sewing them in anywhere. Now this row will be a row of single crochets in the 3rd loop. So you have your 2 stitches here. You see at the top you have these V stitches. It's the 3rd one in the back here. And placing a single crochet in each one of those all around. That 3rd back loop isn't always easy to get to. Just be patient with it. And I'll meet back up with you at the end of the round. I'm placing a single crochet in that last third back loop. Slip stitch into the top of that first single crochet in white. And cut off your yarn, leaving a 4 to 5 inch tail. Pull your yarn through that loop and give it a tug. And the outside of your geode is done. To begin, the center is exactly the same as we did the outside. You start with that magic circle. Five single crochets in that magic ring. And 5. Close your magic circle, and closing that up with a slip stitch. Chain 1 and place 2 more single crochets in that same join stitch. Grabbing your starter color stitch marker, placing it in the second stitch of those 3 single crochets. Single crochet in the next stitch, and 3 single crochets in the next.
Place a stitch marker in the second stitch of the group of 3.
Single crochet in the next stitch, and 3 single crochets in the next stitch. Place that last stitch marker in the middle of those 3 stitches. One single crochet in the next stitch, and 3 single crochets where your starter stitch marker is. Replacing your starter stitch marker in the second single crochet of those 3, and continue around the same as when we made the outer shell of the geode. Single crochet between the stitch markers, 3 single crochets in each stitch marker. Rewind and revert back to that first video for any questions you might have, or just to rewatch it again as you crochet step by step. I will meet you when we are finished with the inner of the geode.
Place a single crochet in that last stitch. Remove the stitch marker and place a single crochet where that stitch marker was. We'll cut off the yarn here and switch over to the white. Be sure to leave a 4 to 5 inch tail. Create a slip knot and place on your hook. Pull through that loop on your hook and give those ends a good tug. Tie your loose ends together. You won't have to weave those in later, as they'll be hidden inside the geode. Place a single crochet in each of the stitches of the previous round. Don't place one in the third back loop like we did before.
And placing the single crochet in those last 2 stitches. Slip stitch in the top of that first stitch and cut off, pulling through the loop on your hook and giving that a good tug. Now you're going to need a good amount of yarn that matches your bead color. We'll start with that. And beads. And yarn needle. We're going to go up through the center here. And pull that yarn all the way through. Well, leave 2 to 3 inches on the back side here so we can tie it off. And just tie that in a knot with the center of the yarn that was already there. There we go.
Place a pink bead on your needle and slide it onto the yarn.
And then going right into the next stitch on either side of that center stitch. Poke through to the other side and pull your yarn all the way through. and pull tight. Each one of these need to be pulled tight so they stand up where we leave them. Going back into the center, there it is. Getting another pink bead, and we're going to go into a hole off to the side that we just placed the bead in. We don't want it right next to it, otherwise they'll be too tight. Once we fold it all in on itself, we want space in between those beads so that it will still form this cup. If we place the beads too close together, it'll just flatten it all out. It just won't shape right. So again, well, going into this stitch off to the side of the bead you just placed. And pulling that yarn all the way through. There we go. And then pulling that bead tight. Back into the center. Getting another bead here. And then going into yet on the other side of the two beads that it's already there, we're going to place the needle. Pulling the yarn all the way through and giving it a good tug so the bead is tight. There's your first 3 beads. We're going to place a bead on each side of these, leaving enough space in between, like I said. So just going into what's that, the third row, getting a pink bead. Now if we place our needle to the side, here's a good place to place it. Our bead will be vertical. If we place our needle vertical or above where we came up, our bead will lay horizontal. And I will show you with poking our needle in here, it's to the side of where we came up, and pulling that tight, giving it a good tug, and the bead is laying horizontal. We have a cluster here of horizontals and vertical beads. We want to keep that going. So we've got two that are vertical here. We're going to turn it. I'm going to go up to the next. You see a hole up here. That's where I'm going to place the next one. And then I'm going to come down to the next hole on the center of these 2 beads. And you can see they're not all laying in a line. They're all not laying the same. And that's what we want. We want just a cluster of beads going wherever, laying which way they will, depending on where you place the needle next. This one, I'll go down. And now that we've got a good cluster here, I'm going to place one of the clear beads here. And yes, the clear beads are bigger than the pony beads from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to bring the needle down to the beads here. Not right up to, but in one of the holes close to. Pull that tight. And now we have a variation, different heights to our little crystal in our geode. I'm going to place another one over here. So I'll come up in that hole there next to this group of beads here. Grabbing a clear bead, pulling this thread tight, placing my needle in just one of the holes out
and away from the other beads,
and pulling my yarn through. And that gives you an idea. I'll place yet another clear one over here, but I won't place one next to the one that's already there. I want to keep the pinks together with a clear one placed farther away from another clear one. You can play around with it and see if that's how you like it. There is enough room for that to continue to curl up on itself there. And that's how we're going to continue. Just placing those beads on up to there, or this white rim here. And then we'll do one row or so. Is here I've got a couple of clear beads on down, but here and there I have placed clear beads all around that white ledge, but not on the top. I left the tops clear. We want to steer clear of the very top to leave that edge of the geode clean. I will continue placing the beads and meet back up with you at the edge of the pink and the white yarn. Be back in a moment. Okay, we got it all finished here. Up to this white rim. Some of the pink is still showing here and there. And that's where I'm going to place a couple clear beads. Some of the pink beads go right up to the white rim, and that's okay. And that just finishes up that little section there. And you can see how the beads rest horizontally and vertically. Some straight across the white stripe of yarn here, and then there's some that are clumped together. I'm going to finish that all the way around. Wherever there's spare pink, I'll place 1 or 2 beads here and there. But definitely all the way across. I've got it pretty full of beads. I'm not going to place any more in there, and you can see all the leftover places that I didn't place beads. But turning it right side in, all the beads have a place and fit comfortably without stacking on top of each other. Now get your bottom part of your geode, and where you can see corners, place those corners with the top part corners. It'll take some poking and prodding, poking in those loose ends, and pulling out the bottom until all the ridges are even. Like so. And get your white yarn, about 15 to 20 inches of it. Place it on your needle, and we'll start with this point here just because the threads are trying to poke out. We'll go from the inside here and come out just between the layer of white and gray here. Pull that to where you have 2 or 3 inches left, and grab that other one from the inside to tie those off, just to keep those good, secure and tight so nothing comes loose. And then poke those both back inside. And there's still yet another one. There we go. You may have to do that several times. But we're just going to needle and thread it between the white and the gray here, just off from where our thread is attached to the geode there, and come right between the white and the pink of the inner, making stitches. We're just going to do that all the way around. And adjust that, those beads in that inner part of the geode as you need to, and continue with your stitching. And I'll meet back up with you at the beginning. Now I've stitched those two together all around, and I'm just going to poke through Poke through my loop and pull tight, and do that one more time. Just through both pieces of the work and up through this loop here, creating a little knot, and it doesn't show through that white. And then I'm going to poke right between the white rim and the gray area. Come out down there on the bottom, pull that yarn tight. I'm going to poke that through that same hole come out there on the other side, giving that yarn a tug, and then I'm going to cut that. And there's my geode. I'm going to position everything again inside there, tugging here, poking there, until I have everything how I like it, how I want it. And there's the finished project. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to give it a thumbs up. Comment with any suggestions or questions. I'd really love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe. I really appreciate it. Check out these other videos next.